So here is my project, which is MindUp 2.0. It is a Google extension that I found very interactive for the students to use, and a great way also for teachers to interact and collaborate with each other. So some background information of my class. I teach a third grade class. It's an ICT classroom, and I'm the special education teacher. There are 22 students in my class. 7 students have IEPs, and 1 student has a 504. In my school, there are 2 computer labs, but both computer labs are used for NWA testing during different parts of the year. To use the computer lab, there's a sign-up sheet outside the door, and you're allowed to go once a week. In our school, there is no computer lab teacher, just a computer lab aide who sets up the computer for your class to use each time that you need to go. So this is what the program looks like, is what the students saw. This is MindUp 2.0. So the goal of this is the students become familiar with logging into the school computer, to be able to use the computer in an academic way, and to use the computer to help create a graphic organizer, which can help them learn to organize information, as well as using it to study for quizzes and tests. Being a third grade teacher, some of the students had a lot of difficulty logging in or even understanding how to log into a computer, period. So the plan overview, which I kind of discussed before, but to go in a little bit more detail, is that the students will look at 2 different biomeans that we study in our STEM class and science, and they are both the desert and tundra. And they will learn characteristics about each of them, and then they will create a graphic organizer to help them to learn, understand, as well as take a quiz at the end of this unit. Here are some of the learning objectives that the students will use while using this program and learning about this unit. Some of the technologies, which we have very limited in our school, is just a desktop computer, a Polyvision board, which I use to show how to log in or to show what the program is about, the Google extension, and then Google Docs as an advanced part if we got to it in time. Here are the list of lessons that I had. The 3 bolded ones are the 3 that I'm going to talk about in depth. Otherwise, we're still continually working on this because of testing, holidays, and things like that we fell a little bit behind. So during the first 2 lessons, the students had to learn about the biomemes, and they filled out a paper graphic organizer that most of the students were familiar with. We had them circle the desert when we learned about it, and then they circled the tundra, and they filled out the information in note form about things that they learned about each type of biomeme. So lesson 3 is when we introduced how to use the computer. Many of the students know how to use a computer, but they didn't know how to use the computer in an academic way. I also gave the students a visual step-by-step instruction on how to use it, as well as a note card with a visual of their login information for both the computer and their Google account. So this is what I talked to the students about. They also had this in front of them to help them log into the computer. Here are the login cards that each student got. The computer login was the same for each student. They had difficulties because not everyone knew how to make a capital letter. The Google accounts were all generic at first, and then they got to create their own password, which we had to write in afterwards. I also color-coded it for them to make it easier for them to remember which side to use when using the computer. At lesson 4 is when we began using the program itself. It took a few minutes for us to help them log back into the computer and use the Google Drive to find their extension, but many of the students were able to log in after a few times trying it after the first time. Then I had the students create just a free mind map just to start using the program, just to have fun and be familiar with what they could use it with. The students also got a step-by-step instruction in front of them as well. And this is what the students also had in front of them to help them with a little key at the bottom to help them show the toolbar of which ones they needed to know. There was more tools on the toolbar, but At this point, for the first couple of times them using it, they needed just to use those 5 types of tools. Here is some picture of the process of a student working on it. Here's another one learning how to change the color and adding some points to the Tundra. Finally, as we moved along, in lesson 8, this is where I'll conference with the students to see how they're finishing up their Tundra project. If they're very close or if they're finishing, it will also time to review the parts and make sure they didn't leave anything out, as well as give them ideas the way to enhance their projects and not just have all the same colors. As the students who were more advanced than the others, they were super excited, said this was cool, this was awesome to use, and they were excited and found it so much more engaging than just copying notes and just studying off a piece of paper. So here are some more pictures of the process. As you can see, they use different colors, they enlarged the font, they moved each arm in different directions, and they made their own ways to help them study and their own graphic organizers. I kind of let them be free, in which they found their own experience of how they would enjoy doing it. Here's one at the desert that shows in different colors, bigger fonts for certain parts and smaller fonts. Here's another one that shows the different parts of the login. Also shows them doing it more of in a straight line to help them understand what they're learning about. As for assessments, it'll be both informal and formal assessments. The informal part will be the first part of the completed worksheet of the graphic organizer that I had the students do. More of the formal assessments will be how they do in the MindUp 2.0 project. Being an ICT class, there'll be different levels of where their project needs to be as part of their final formal assessment. Also, at the end, I will have them take a BioMeans quiz about everything that they've learned, as well as a fill-in-the-blank reading quiz at the end as well. So they'll be assessed in many different ways to hopefully show that they've understood what they've learned. Here are 2 of the assessments that I needed them to do at the end, which they will be taking shortly. One is a multiple choice quiz, which I talked about, and then they have to read and then fill in the numbers, fill in the answers with the corresponding numbers. There is another side to this as well. And that is my project of MindUp 2.0.